Dear Asian people, please stop being so racist and anti-black all the time. When we seek white acceptance, we're being anti-black. You know what black people are saying about the whole H-Mart controversy? They're sitting this one out. They're eating popcorn and watching us because they're tired of helping us. Black people have been saying this shit for years. Everyone, including Asian people, have been appropriating black culture far longer and more insidiously than any other group. How are we going to expect black people to be in solidarity with us when we're still so anti-black and crave proximity to whiteness? Asians are where we are today because black and indigenous people fought for civil rights, yet y'all still want to sit at the white people's table. Asians are still doing shit like feeding into the model minority myth, and a lot of y'all are still obsessed with chasing after wealth or prestige using the same systems that have exploited black people for generations. And just because you went to a good school, landed a corporate job, or assimilated into white culture doesn't mean you can become politically apathetic and throw under the bus all the black activists and organizers who have fought tirelessly so you can enjoy the rights that you have today. Asians, please stop being so complicit in white supremacy. It's embarrassing.
I'm mad at Asian Americans because why are we so smart but so silent? What's with the silence? I suspect that if we opened our mouths, we would side with black people and other brown people as the real American heroes. Yeah, we're brown, not white. But this would disrupt the white supremacy brainwash we're caught in. And deep down, we hate ourselves for siding with whiteness. We know they're wrong. Our silence is the sound of us hating ourselves. But that's the Squid Game trap that they set for us, an Asian American matrix that messes with our reality. And it's all based on hating black people. You know, the ones we're all secretly trying to copy, even the white peoples. White supremacy isn't smart, but it's tricky like that.
I don't have much to add to this H-Mart Gate drama except for this. Black people staying in our business, I like it. Because regardless of what your position is on the whole H-Mart blah, 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 at least you guys are caring. Because at the end of the day, this whole H-Mart scandal is about whether or not Asians should be welcoming to white people and if assimilation or getting the goodwill from white people is the goal. You know who's been staying giving us that goodwill though, via drama and gossip? The black community. And it's making me think about my immigrant mom, who was an engineer for 30 years, worked with a ton of racist people, but she said that one person who just seemed to really understand her was the only black person on the team. And she was like, there's just something that like we just get about each other. And also I think she thinks I'm cute. And that has never left me. I always think about that. So thank you for having our backs, black community. May we return the favor.
Thank you to this creator for speaking on this, and dear Asian Americans, we need to be talking about anti-blackness within our community. In my research, I have found that anti-blackness is pervasive among Asian Americans, especially when they internalize the model minority myth. When Asian Americans adopt this belief that their racial group is superior to other racial groups because they have stronger cultural values in hard work and success, it's correlated to greater explicitly negative attitudes towards Black Americans. And echoing what this creator shared, this pitting of minorities against one another, this narrative that Asian Americans just pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and have the right cultural values and hard work to succeed. That narrative has been really internalized within our community and has hindered solidarity to promote greater racial justice for us all.
Our greatest allies have been the Black community. Black and Asian solidarity has a long, long history. And that's not to erase the examples from both sides of intolerance, hate, and violence. But at our best, we have long fought alongside each other, such as Frederick Douglass advocating for Chinese and Japanese immigration in 1869. Or when Henry Turner and I.D.B. Wells spoke out on behalf of Filipino freedom fighters. Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Martin Luther King, and many black protesters condemning the violence and war in Vietnam. Japanese Americans fighting alongside the black community to repeal the Emergency Detention Act. The powerful relationship between Yuri Kochiyama and Malcolm X. Grace Lee Boggs and her husband James Boggs. Jesse Jackson, the NAACP for Vincent Chin. And the majority of Asian Americans who support the Black Lives Matter movement.
While we're on that topic, right? Like, I'm speaking to black people. So when you see Asian people in your comment sections and they're like, yeah, that part of the Asian community are the ones who are anti-black. My community is not like that at all. They're lying to you. There's anti-blackness in the East Asian community, the Southeast Asian community, the Central Asian community, the West Asian community, the North Asian community, and the South Asian communities, okay? And the people who are pointing fingers at the other people are the type of people who refuse to acknowledge it and unpack it within themselves. Like they don't know how to look within themselves and be like, look, it's our entire community, not just like that part of the community. And it's really annoying.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Joe Report, where we get an outsider's view with an insider's clarity. There is a shift happening online, one that's catching people's attention and starting some much needed conversations. More Asian Americans are openly acknowledging the cultural influence, political power, and global impact of Black Americans, and instead of avoiding the difficult history between the two groups, many of them are actually calling for unity, not surface level unity, but real conversations, real accountability, and real healing. Because the truth is, the tension we see today didn't just pop out of nowhere. It was shaped over decades, built through laws, stereotypes, and manipulative narratives that were designed to keep these two communities apart. Before we proceed, all credit goes to the creators of these videos. You'll find all their arts in my description box. Also guys, kindly support me by watching this video till the end. But for now, let me play you a few more clips and I'll be back with more commentary.
I woke up out of my sleep because this needed to be said. Asians want to be Black adjacent with white privilege. And just that thought alone, which is a very true thought, is kind of sickening because, again, I'll never stop speaking on it. They emulate Black culture, Black aesthetics, everything so heavily in the means of joking or because it's wacky. You know, white people try to say that all the time back in the day. Oh, Black people do this wacky, funky stuff. And then hoopla, hoopla, they try to switch it to something else. They try to give it a different name. But it's sad because, again, Asian people know what it's like to experience racism, especially from white people, and to be oppressed by white people. However, they get that bit of what they feel is an amenity and they turn it towards Black people. They want to be Black adjacent with white privilege. And that's just the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
There's a creator on here who that has been recently coming down my For You page. It is because she's been in Asian TikTok's business, and some of the things that she had spoke about, it just made me, curious as to what was happening over on Asian TikTok. And so I go down that rabbit hole, and interestingly enough, I'm noticing that a lot of Asian folks, all different types of Asian groups, are now having conscious conversations amongst each other and asking, why are we not liking each other when we all go through the same struggle? Like, what makes us so different? Other than a certain dialects, but for the most part, we as Asian people experience certain things, and it brings them to the anti-Blackness that they have within themselves as well. And why do they continuously try to align themselves with white proximity? But why I thought this was interesting is because throughout history, Asian Americans have been considered model citizens, and they've allowed themselves to be used as a ploy whenever it is either to leverage themselves or to take something away from us. Like, for example, when Stop Asian Hate, low-key, they were trying to kind of blame that on Black people, suggesting that Black people have been violent towards Asian Americans, when they know that that is the furthest thing from the truth. But then they coined Stop Asian Hate, and then affirmative action was taken away when an Asian guy couldn't get into the university he wanted to. He blamed it on us instead of the legacy admissions. But all of these things that was happening throughout history has shown that for some Asian communities, that they benefit us, they utilize and appropriate our culture when it's beneficial. They play into their proximity to Blackness whenever it's somehow going to provide them leverage. But when it really, really matters, and when they know that they can advocate for things that can be taken away from us, they allowed themselves to be that, be that ploy. But now they're having conversations about checking that anti-Blackness.
Lately, I've seen many Asian Americans really speaking for their community, explaining the history behind the tension and saying they want unity with the Black community. And that's powerful, but it also means facing the real issues Black people have been talking about for years. One of the biggest points being made is that when Asian immigrants first arrived in the US, they didn't get to choose where to live. Segregation and racist housing policies forced them into Black and brown neighborhoods because those were the only areas that allowed non-white residents. So geographically, the communities were close, but culturally, they were still distant. Language barriers, cultural differences, and limited communication made it hard to build true relationships. And when people don't interact deeply, misunderstandings fill the silence. Those misunderstandings turned into stereotypes, and those stereotypes lasted for generations. And then, during the civil rights movement, the United States government introduced one of the most damaging tools ever used between these communities: the model minority myth. Asian Americans were portrayed as successful, quiet and compliant, and their story was held up as proof that racism wasn't real. But this narrative wasn't created to uplift Asians. It was crafted to undermine Black Americans. The message was basically, look, they made it. Why can't you? That comparison created resentment, pressure, and distrust, and neither community asked for it or benefited from it. At the same time, anti-Blackness existed long before many Asian immigrants arrived in the US. Centuries of colonial influence, colorism, and Western media shaped harmful stereotypes about Black people across parts of Asia. So some Asian immigrants brought those biases with them, often unconsciously.
For most Asian American women, marriage to white men is considered highly advantageous, and our families really encourage it. It's not like the struggle interracial love that our parents oppose because they want us to have Asian husbands. Absolutely not, no. It might have been that way like decades ago, and some communities discourage it more than others. I think Koreans really prioritize marrying other Koreans. That's at least what my ex-boyfriend told me. But at least in China and for Chinese Americans, which is what I am, getting a white husband is a flex. It is something that you show off to your entire family. You talk about how your kids are going to have blonde hair and blue eyes, even though they're not. Your whole family is going to be so excited that you got an American husband. Yes, even if you are Asian American, they will call only white people American. That is a thing. They always view it as a step up in life. Even if your white man is broke, even if he treats you badly in front of everybody, they'll just say, why aren't you working hard enough for his acceptance? If you do more, then he will really accept you, and he won't cheat on you with a younger Asian woman. Absolutely not. And I know this view is so prevalent because a lot of divorced older Chinese aunties will swear off Asian men and only go for white men, specifically Trump supporters. There's also this idea in our community that Asian men are a lot more misogynistic than white men, which is absolute bullshit. Misogyny just looks different, and if you are raised culturally Chinese, you will not be as attuned to the way that misogyny shows up in Western society and how it will show up in your marriage to a white man. So TLDR, we are highly encouraged to do this, and we will be praised by our families for the rest of our lives for marrying a white guy.
In the 2024 US presidential election, a noticeable portion of Asian American voters leaned Republican, influenced by concerns about the economy, public safety, and immigration policies. Many in the community have also been directly affected by deportations, family separations, and immigration enforcement, which has shaped their political outlook. But despite past alignments, a growing number of Asian Americans are reflecting on these experiences and re-examining their assumptions about race in America. They are now acknowledging that Black Americans were right about systemic injustices, and some are expressing a willingness to stand in solidarity with the Black community. This shift shows an openness to honesty, mutual understanding, and building a stronger coalition between communities that have both faced discrimination and exclusion. On the other side, many Black Americans mostly interacted with Asians through business relationships, corner stores, nail salons, small shops, encounters that were often transactional instead of personal. That created tension, frustration, and more stereotypes, and many Black commenters have been vocal about this. Some say they've always embraced Asian culture, from martial arts movies to Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, and more, but haven't always felt that respect returned. Others share experiences of living or traveling in places like Korea or Japan and feeling unwelcome or judged because they were Black. Some say plainly the anti-Blackness is real, whether people are ready to admit it or not. There are also historical moments that deepen these wounds, especially in the early 1990s. The unaliving of Latasha Harlins, a 15-year-old Black girl, pupilled by a Korean store owner who received no jail time and only a $500 fine, became a defining moment for Black Asian tensions. Combined with the Rodney King beating and the Los Angeles uprisings that followed, many in the Black community felt deeply betrayed, unheard, and disrespected.
I'm gonna say something that y'all aren't gonna like, but there is an expectation that Asian people will pander to white people. It's rooted in xenophobia and the model minority myth. And I'll even take it a step further. The Asian people who are making videos like, oh my gosh, this discourse is so stupid, like, do we not have anything better to talk about, blah, blah, blah. Y'all are also pandering to white people and you don't even realize it. If we look back at history, a lot of Black American culture was born essentially because white people stripped Black people of their ethnic culture, heritage, and roots. As a lot of us know, a lot of Black Americans don't even know where their African ancestors are exactly from because their history was erased and destroyed through slavery. And a lot of Black American culture was created in spite of white people and their perpetuation of racism. So a lot of Black Americans created products that were made for them based on their features, and they also cultivated their own culture within the context of the United States and kept it alive despite systemic racism that they constantly faced.
For some Asian Americans, fear led them into political stances fueled by protection rather than solidarity. Those events left scars that still come up today. But the voices speaking now emphasize something important. The hatred isn't representative. The people who hold extreme views on either side are a minority. The majority want peace, not conflict. They want understanding, not distance. And many are tired of letting the loudest, angriest individuals define millions of people. But if people zoom out, there's a long history of unity that rarely gets spotlighted. Asian American activists studied organizing strategies from Black civil rights leaders. Filipino and Black farm workers united during the labor movement under Larry and Caesar. Japanese American activists supported the Black Panther Party. Malcolm X worked closely with Japanese American activist Yuri. And in cities like Auckland, Black and Asian communities built joint programs to fight poverty, discrimination, and police violence. These alliances existed, they mattered, and they show that unity is not only possible, it's powerful. Today, as more Asian Americans openly acknowledge the impact and influence of Black Americans, a new opportunity for solidarity is emerging. But unity can't happen without honesty. It requires addressing the anti-Blackness that still exists in some parts of Asian communities. It requires acknowledging the pain Black people have expressed for decades. And it requires moving beyond stereotypes, politics, and outdated narratives that keep the two groups divided. Because at the end of the day, both communities share similar experiences: discrimination, exclusion, scapegoating, and being treated like outsiders. Both have been pitted against each other for reasons that had nothing to do with them, and both stand to gain strength, safety, and cultural power when they choose connection over division.
Dear Asian Americans, let's break this cycle of silence about anti-Blackness within our community. We can use what privilege we have to engage in protests and rallies, but also in smaller spaces like speaking up in your family when there's an anti-Black comment made. Let's hold ourselves accountable to the ways that we're perpetuating systems of oppression, because nobody's free until everybody's free.
So what do you all think? Do you think unity between Black and Asian communities is possible in this generation? And what experiences have shaped your view of this relationship? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I would love to keep this discussion going. Otherwise, that's it for me. I also have another video specifically tailored for you. And if you enjoy such kind of content, please click up here and enjoy. Also, consider subscribing, liking and sharing because it helps me grow my channel and helps YouTube recommend this video to a wider audience. Lastly, kindly consider joining my channel and I would really appreciate it. But for now, thank you so much for watching. And until the next time, the Joy Report out.